Namaste. I often get asked the question, what's the difference between a yoga teacher and a yoga coach? And, a yoga teacher typically trained through their 200 hours, and typically most of that 200 hours is based on the physical. The asana labs, sequencing, adjusting, anatomy and physiology. And they get trained very well at doing that. And they get taught a sequence of vinyasa. And then they go to a studio or they go to their local surf club or hall and they teach yoga. But essentially they're teaching asana classes because the whole class is physically focused. And, whether it's an hour or 90 minutes, let's say it's an hour, then most of those classes are 50 minutes physical, 55 if not the whole lot. So you can debate with me as much as you like, but that's simply a fact. And then what we're trying to do as a teacher is that we're trying to give a sequence that fits with everybody. And it's really difficult to do that. Now, if you're good at adjusting, you can help more people more of the time, but you're only working in that level. And in a lot of ways, you just become an alternate fitness instructor. And I know people don't like hearing that, but just in your heart, go in and look at what you're teaching and what you're doing and how much of the focus is physical, and you'll understand. But what a coach does is they work with the whole system of yoga, the 8 steps, as it's classically shown in the Yoga Sutras. And the first part is that you have to work with your external world. You've got to work in the world or live in the world in a way that it is, conducive to going deeper in your life. So things like living non-violence, living with integrity, wise use of your energy. Then you've got to get your own house in order. The niyama, contentment, simplicity, burning enthusiasm, purify the system, understand the sacred text, understand yourself, surrender to something higher. Then we work with the body. And the body is simply a gateway to the mystical, to the divine, to the subtle, when you understand it. And in that process, the yogis talk about getting a body that's steady and comfortable. In other words, balanced. And when our body becomes balanced, it doesn't become an obstacle anymore, and we can go deeper into the subtle. Then we start working, and then it starts to get exciting because we start working in the invisible. We start working with the chakras, with the nadial networks, with the breath, with the life force. It's super cool. And we learn to channel it and direct it and center it. And then when we do that, we start to work with the mind, because the mind drives everything. Like, the world is a mental construct, holographic if you like. But the yogis always talk about it. The definition of the whole thing is to have mastery of your mind, to settle the waves of the mind into stillness. Because when the mind comes into stillness, if you sit here and you don't think about anything, what's left? Now, and that's it. And that's the whole idea of coming into the present moment, a tantrika, life meeting life. And what we're trying to do here is we're reunifying our consciousness that's been fragmented out into the world, back into Anjana, back into the midbrain. And we're syncing the 2 hemispheres of the brain, the sun and the moon aspects. And we're learning to go beyond the mind and then tap back into that singularity, right? To yoke everything, to join it and unify back into oneness, Christ consciousness. And when that happens, you start to get informed by insight and inspiration and intuition. And when you surrender to that, when you surrender to this greater intelligence, when you surrender to God, then life becomes extraordinary. And so as a coach, you're understanding this whole system. You're understanding that it's a pattern of living. You're understanding it's a system of evolving, not just the physical body, because we have also a subtle body that composes the etheric body, the astral body. We also have a mental emotional body, but beyond that, we also have higher level celestial bodies. And we learn to work with all of those with the same confidence and understanding that we have in the physical body. We make the invisible visible. And when you apply that to your life, when you apply it to your students, and you coach them in a way that begins to remove the interference and the obstacles and opens them to more and more possibility, wow, that is a very different way of taking your yoga into the world. And that's what we do in Ultimate Life Coach, taking yoga into the world as a coaching system.